Except you're going to say like go.
Oh, it's go.
Okay, cool. All right. We did the 3, 2, 1, but not the other 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's times like this when you really find out who the Facebook algorithm thinks your friends are, and so I'm glad for everyone who got the whatever it was notification from it or that mom harangued to come look at this and has joined us. So thank you. We're going to be making a few things today. The first is some scallops. We're going to saute them and make a sauce called a beurre blanc to go with that. We've got some baby bok choy we're going to steam, and then we're generally not cheating. Like, this wasn't super rehearsed or even vaguely well thought out. It was like this morning we decided to do it. But the little bit of prep that we did was to pick off the gross parts of the bok choy leaves or whatever, and also start some potatoes going. So we had these little purple sweet potatoes that we just like cut in half, put on a thing, hit with some coconut oil and then salt and pepper, and have just been roasting it for 25-ish for probably 40 minutes or so far. Maybe, something like that. So, sorry, not at all. 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So they'll probably take 40 or 45 minutes or so to be done. So that'll give us enough time to do everything else.
So Aunt Sharon says hi, y'all.
Oh, hi, Aunt Sharon. All right, well, yes. So why don't we start? We're gonna, I guess the first thing we'll do is talk about the sauce. It's called a beurre blanc. It's actually it's probably one of the less demanding or whatever sauces. It's a butter-based sauce, but unlike hollandaise, you don't have to have any eggs or things or whatever else. So it uses, it basically emulsifies itself based on a tiny bit of lecithin in the butter, and also the little bit of water with the rest of the fat in the butter. And so it kind of, butter just wants to be a sauce. So if, it's like the pandemic and everyone's been baking and we have an egg shortage or whatever, which is one of the weirdest, first world pandemic problems ever, then, you can still make this sauce. So,
so Robin says hi.
Hi, Robin, also.
And your parents are here as well.
Gotcha, right. So the family's, it's like, Christmas all those years ago with our performances once again.
And here's Allison.
All right.
Allison Titus
Cool.
Nelson.
Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. So, So for ingredients for the beurre blanc, we're gonna start out with a little bit. We're gonna be cooking with Charles Shaw today and drinking with Kim Crawford today. So a little bit of white wine, a little bit of vinegar. I like cider vinegar; it's good, and a little bit of lemon juice. Generally, anytime you're gonna get juice out of a lemon, I always like to go and get all the zest off the lemon first. It's kind of like free, lemon flavor, and it's nice and intense and awesome and whatever. So if you're gonna do that, here, so the cool thing about it is you can, you don't have to even be using the zest when you do this, right? You can just zest the thing out and then keep, wad it up in a paper towel, put it in a bag, get the air out and put it in the freezer, and then it'll just keep, pretty much, it'll keep longer than the lemon you were going to just throw in the trash or compost or whatever afterwards. So if you have one of these, a little microplane grater, it's great for zesting stuff. And you just, you kind of go down. You don't want to keep going until there's white, because that's the bitter part, the pith. But it's and you can see this stuff is coming off. It's better if the lemon is a little not yet completely dried up or whatever yet. If you're not the kind of person that spends $17 on that, then even a little here we go, going off the script, like a potato peeler-y kind of thing will even do a good job zesting, as long as it's nice and sharp.
Which that one isn't, I don't think.
Yeah, this is the hated potato peeler that Heather likes. But right here. It's funny.
There's the one he likes.
It's almost as if I had actually prepared in any way for this. So for this works better for more sort of younger supple lemons. But you can see it does an okay job getting this stuff off. So yeah, do this. It's great for lemons, limes, even oranges. It's a little bit of color, and man, if you smelled it, it's it smells almost too lemony. It's really good. So we're just going to quickly do the rest of this so that we can get the zest out. We'll add some of this to the sauce, but then we can just save the rest too. And
So why don't you go through the menu one more time, because we've had a whole bunch of people join since you started talking about what we're making today.
Gotcha. All right. Well, for all of you people, you know how important punctuality is to me, everybody. But for you anyway, we will go ahead and So we're going to be sautéing scallops. We've got some bok choy that we're going to steam. Some baby bok choy. We've got some purple potatoes or sweet potatoes that we've been roasting for a little bit that we'll have with it, and we're making a sauce called a beurre blanc to go along with it. So you saw one of the nice if you're gonna juice a lemon, if you kind of roll it like this a little bit of force, not so much you break it. It kind of breaks up the stuff inside and makes it really easy to get juice out of it.
So Melissa Titus Thomas says, hey.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
And Allison says, my boys love a good cooking show.
All right, then. Well, and I'm sorry that this is all the one you have, but, welcome anyway to you and the boys. So we're going to go for probably I will put like proportions and stuff, for people who like recipes and things for all this. It's probably something like an ounce-ish of lemon juice that we're going to get, and maybe a little bit more than that of wine, and maybe another ounce or so of the cider vinegar. And the interesting thing about this, you might think that's kind of a lot of acid or things or whatever, but all of that, we're actually going to reduce it once we...
Hey, Jessica. Hey, Jan.
Hey, you've got all kinds of people joining.
We have like 14 people watching, Chris.
Nice, that's cool. All right, so I'm going to start with I washed my hands really well before, so don't worry that, touching. So we're going to put the lemon juice in first, just because it's kind of what we got. We're going to go and fish out the lemon seeds, because that would be nice.
Should we get some music going? Some cooking music?
Yes, that's a good idea. Alexa, play some Pete Fountain.
This is Pete Fountain from Spotify.
Yeah. All right. There we go. So we'll add a little bit of wine.
So we have Susan LeBlanc, and she says she's your father's first cousin.
Oh, hi there. Boy, yeah, we got the whole...
We reached out, didn't we?
Yeah.
Good job, Sandra.
Yeah, I wasn't preparing for Heather to actually do like PR on this, so it's kind of... Anyway, so what we're going to do with this is reduce it with a little bit of shallot. So this is part of the, part of our thing is we didn't actually go grocery shopping or anything for this because we're trying to be good. So normally this takes shallots in it, but we don't have that. So normally what I do when I don't have shallots, in addition to just telling everybody please pretend that there's shallots, is I'll get a little bit of I can get like green onions, with like the green part and the bottom part of the onion, and that's kind of combines to be shalloty, or whatever. But we've got chives outside, but they're growing, so I don't want to yank them up. So instead, we're just going to get a little bit of I think this is like sweet onion that we've got here, and it doesn't this is not like rocket sciencey level stuff here. So we'll get a little bit of that. And a little bit of the chive, and no bits of the lemon seed. All right.
So a few people just tuned in, and Yen is asking what you're making. So I figured you could just run through that one more time.
Sure. Yeah. That's what we're making right now is a sauce called beurre blanc. It's a sauce that it's an emulsified sauce that's mostly just butter with a little bit of extra stuff in it, and we can talk about like a couple ways to kind of make it easier on yourself as you're making it, and such. It's because you're using very little emulsifier in it, you have to kind of end up stirring it a bunch, and I don't know. There's a technique I'll show, but another way to do is just add a little bit of cream or something to stabilize it. So, but the first thing we do, so we've added all of the you know, we basically have like our acids and things, some
Okay.
wine, some vinegar.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I can only go so far before it spills over. So, anyway, yeah. So, wine and cider vinegar and lemon juice. So we're gonna kick this on high, and we're gonna let this reduce. It reduces au sec, which is until it's dry. So you got to kind of keep an eye on it because you want to drive most of the liquid away. You can't have too much water hanging around for the sauce to work right, but you also don't want to burn all the stuff that we spent all that time doing. So we can also put a little tiny bit of black pepper in there to go kind of while it cooks. So that's going to reduce for a little bit, and then we will come back to that in a moment. As a note, so beurre blanc means white butter. You can, if you use red wine, then it's kind of it just makes the same sauce, but it's called beurre rouge instead. It's kind of more pinkish than red, but you know, I mean, so you know, that might be a different flavor or color or some kind of thing you're going with. And it's a really good sauce for fish or other things that are fairly light, you know, and you know, I mean, when you might want to use, you know, something like a hollandaise, it's pretty good for that. All right, so let's talk about some scallops real quick. So, if you don't like scallops, well, you know, you should because they're tasty. But one of the reasons that I've heard people not like say that they're not a fan is that they end up being tough. And so, one thing about scallops is they have like this little muscle. Well, there's two muscles, right? It's like anything. One makes it open, and the other pulls the thing shut. And so there's so this is actually, I don't know if you can see this view of this thing, but there's kind of like this little thing on the side here, and like this part will be incredibly tough and rubbery, and this will be really tasty. So as long as you have you know, if like you're getting these big, if you get the tiny scallops, it's kind of more of a pain to do than anything else. But for if you have these guys, then yeah, you can just like peel that right off, and that's you will you know, this, if you just hate the taste or something, it's not going to change that much. But it'll certainly take the little odd bit, you know, if you're the sort that gets weirded out by, you know, randomly chewing something that's very different from the other things you're chewing, then that's, you know, gonna make that go away at least. Sometimes they kind of naturally come off a little bit, so sometimes just as they're, you know, processed or whatever, that it's already comes off.
So these were in a frozen bag from Costco. So
Yes.
you can get these pretty much anywhere. A couple people had some comments.
Yeah.
And then somebody had asked, a few people had asked actually if you could do shrimp instead.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. You could do, I mean, this kind of thing, I mean, it's not there's no magic going to happen. It's going to, you know, we're going to saute them in the pan. So this could work well with shrimp or with, you know, like lobster medallions. I was telling Tracy, if you want to get all fancy, or, you know, or whatever else. It's
Or even just a light fish.
yes, yeah, anything, yes, anything that's kind of just nice and light, and you know, the beurre blanc is not going to have a ton of flavor to it, but yeah, it's going. The stuff is reducing, but it's
Should we take a
doing
look?
so pretty calmly.
All right, let's try to take a look here. See if that works. See in there? Yeah.
Yeah, there you
A
go.
little bit.
So, yeah, we're going to be sautéing these to get a nice brown if we can. It's a really good test of, you know, live stuff, because it often, you know, they put this like little solution sometimes, and they take on a bunch of water when they freeze them because they don't want it to dry out. But it means that there's a lot of water in these guys, and anytime you're trying to brown stuff, water is the enemy. You know, like anytime water's there, the temperature's not going, you know, much above boiling-ish. So we're gonna pat these dry and yeah, and just see how well they do. Yeah, let's see. Let's set that. Take this. Yeah. So, you know, we made sort of like basic, you know, due care in trying to get all the water that we can off of the thing, which will help us as we go to, you know, as we go to saute the thing.
So Jennifer
So we're
Seiler, I'm hoping I'm getting your name right, Jennifer. Jennifer Seiler just joined, and she actually did this. She lives here in our neighborhood, for those of you who are watching from far away. She actually just did this with chicken parmesan, I guess, yesterday, and we happened across it, and so that was what inspired Chris to do this. So we just want to shout out to her. She did a great little video with her daughter with way more cool filters than I'm equipped to figure out.
yeah, I don't want to be a clown, so I pretty much asked Heather to not do the cool filters part. Yeah, we decided to have this Kim Crawford. It's a nice Sauvignon Blanc. There's all kinds of people who will tell you all kinds of things about this and goes with that and the other, and if you have a butter sauce, you need to cut it, and you got to hit it with an oak bat so get a shard, or do something, or hit it with grass, or whatever the hell the other part of that metaphor is for Sauvignon Blanc. I just always think like pour the thing you like, and whatever. So we're getting rid of some of the 2 bok chuck that we had just because that's our kind of our cooking stuff, but even that's actually pretty drinkable. Anyway, so yeah, all right. So this is going along. We've gotten this all prepped. I'm not gonna crank it just yet because we're getting kind of close to time for everything to kind of happen at once. So some of this was just to get this a little bit ready. I'm gonna put a little bit of pepper. What I'm gonna not do is put salt on it yet. When you put salt on food, one of the things with almost any food is it will start drawing water out. And so if you hit it with salt, then suddenly you've got a puddle in the thing. So I'll do that later when I want to like deglaze the pan, or like when I want the things to kind of release so that I can turn them over and stuff.
So Ross Fontenot wants to know if you'll write down the recipe at some point.
Yes, I will. Right. Yeah, we said that earlier, before the, people who are very, very late now joined us. But yes, we'll put the recipes in the kind of in line. Nothing is like super complicated with ingredients and whatever. Yeah. So speaking of like not super complicated, so this is like baby bok choy. We just cut them in half, which was the extent of the prep. Also, we washed it, etc. We're really just being fancy here with the steaming thing. Honestly, a lot of times we just like nuke vegetables if you just need a baseline amount of stuff cooked, and then toss them with whatever, or kind of still al dente, or just do a flavorful thing with it. So we don't want to cook the heck out of these too much. It was a while after I left Louisiana that I'm like, oh, you don't have to smother everything in bacon gravy to every single vegetable every time. Although that's quite nice to it's quite a good way to do things, but it's not the only way. So
they're still responding to the shade you were throwing about the latecomers, so.
I know, well, they missed the first time around when I said, look, guys, punctuality is so important to me here, which we all know is not true. So, yeah, so we're just going to throw that in our pasta pot. Alexa, set a timer for 6 minutes.
So Yun is asking bacon. So tell him what
Alexa, set a timer for 6 minutes.
Tell him what face you made when I asked about bacon this morning with the scallops. You made a face at me. Oh,
well, yeah. Heather talked about wrapping the scallops with stuff, and really that's, look at them. That's too much work. So, also, a lot of times I like to do I will bacon wrap like a steak to cook it on the grill because there's enough heat and all that, and the bacon cooks. If you wrap these and then just saute them a while, and by the time they're done, the bacon's still flobbly, and it's just not right. So, I just use bacon different. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes if you get those really huge scallops that you'll find at crazy restaurant action or whatever, I actually have seen those sometimes bacon wrapped, but it's just more work than This is like a Wednesday night dinner scale thing. I get that we cut a lemon up, but that's about the fanciest thing we've done so far. So,
so William Henry Corey IV says grilled bok choy with a balsamic reduction.
That is, yes, we agree. That is an awesome way to do it. In this case, we're just going to eat it with more of the beurre blanc that we're making. We're only doing 1 stick of butter worth with it. But anyway, so the thing about the beurre blanc is because you're not using much other than like I said, a tiny bit of lecithin in the butter and just sheer will to do the emulsification. This is right about that eau sec piece, see? So it's like, you know, there's just about no liquid in there, which is good because we get all the flavor we want, but none of the liquid that's gonna, you know, make the thing hard. So we're gonna emulsify this, and we're gonna emulsify it using just a whole bunch of kind of stirring around. We're gonna add the butter a little bit at a time. We're gonna start it pretty cold so that it, you know, so that as it adds to the thing, it doesn't heat up too quickly, which would cause the sauce to break. So it can be kind of a challenging sauce to make, and this is one of those parts where it's like I thought about earlier doing like some checking on ingredients, and then I just didn't because again, not planned. So I'm gonna see if we have okay. So here's a good way. So this is the cheat part, right? If we could take this and throw it in the thing and like, you know, whisk it around in a couple cubes at a time and blah, blah, blah. So maybe we will do that. We'll just see if we nail it. But if we don't, or, you know, or particularly if you're going to hold it for a while, like if you've got people coming over, you know, or like you're going to putting it out as a thing and, you know, for people to dip something or whatever else, then you can add some cream, like right to this. You can reduce the cream a little bit until it's like, you know, just a little thicker than it normally, you know, about as thick as you would want the sauce to be, and then start doing your adding butter stuff and blah, blah, blah. But how about we don't do that because, you know, fortune favors the bold sometimes. So we're just going to go with it. So I think we'll start this going. We're going to try to put like a few cubes at a time. And
hey, Tracy. Tracy just joined us.
Cool. All right then. So, here we are. Okay, so, all right, everybody, keep your eyes peeled for all the little bits of wax paper. We're just gonna pretend to like those when we eat them later. Okay, yeah, that looks all good. Okay, so, yeah. All right. Okay, so using the whisk that with great forethought you got ready, the start is pretty unceremonious because it's just like, you know, a couple 3 cubes of butter and some stuff. So we can kind of whisk it around a little bit. And so you'll find as you're starting to do this, you'll kind of see, you know, it kind of looks like, oh, okay, it's kind of coming together. It looks kind of unified a little bit, you know, like there's not like streaks of melted butter and then everything else. You know, you definitely see it's melting. So what we're going to do is make it so that this can, Alexa, volume down. We'll just put a couple in at a time and we'll just keep doing this more or less constantly throughout this. If it gets to the point that it's cooled down enough that it takes too long, we'll just set it back on here to pull a little bit more of the heat off of the metal, because we don't want this to be too hot. Like, you don't want to do this with fire on generally, because you'll break the sauce. You can heat a cream stabilized one a little bit more than another. So lastly, this is like a pot that I got at, you know, a restaurant supply company 20 years ago, and it's lasted just about forever. So it's kind of like my biggest. And my biggest pan was a nice steel, a nice like slug in the base with some copper or some kind of thing. It was like $30, so it's not, you know, it's not fancy, but it has just, you know, done a good job. So if you're gonna really try to brown the hell out of something, one thing that helps is use a pan that holds a lot of heat and is a little bit dense versus just a light aluminum pan. So the temptation might be to use like your non-stick skillet or something, you know, so you don't have the thing stick, which I get it, that's also a temptation. These may stick and be all kind of problems, but we're going to not do that. Instead, we're going to try to drive a lot of heat into the thing. Is this? Alexa, turn off the alarm. So yeah, we're going to heat the heck out of it. We're going to use a decent amount of oil. We're going to take the smoke detector and pull the batteries out of it. Alexa, turn off the alarm.
If the camera goes, you know, fumbling to the floor, it'll be because I'm the one who had to go run to turn the smoke alarm off.
Yeah.
So a few people just clicked in. I thought I'd tell you. Jay Caldwell is here. Sam Weiss is here.
Awesome.
Who else? Let's see.
So here's the, so our bok choy is doing okay. It's like, it's just steaming fairly unceremoniously in there. And so we'll let it go another couple of minutes. Yeah, Alexa, set a timer for 2 minutes. So this has got a good bit of heat. So, you can start to feel some heat there, which is good. It's like the biggest, hottest burner we've got. I am so tired of hearing different things about olive oil and sauteing, and I had like chefs tell me, yes, absolutely, you can. The first extra virgin olive oil is the first press, so it doesn't have all the little bits of olive that end up in the next crushings and the next crush. So like that, yes, saute to smoke points high, whatever. I'd always found that to be the case. Then there's other people who seem to know what the hell they're talking about in other ways, saying, no, there's carcinogens and blah. So life's too short to keep even thinking about it. So I generally don't do like high heat saute stuff in olive oil anymore. It's mostly avocado. So, because the choice isn't between olive oil and like, Wesson or some crap anymore. So, so we're gonna add a decent amount of oil. Here comes the smoke detector fun part. So, it's like a couple, 3 glugs. This is probably a little more than I would otherwise put. And we're going to start going with these scallops here. What?
That's a hot pan.
It is, yes. This is right at the time when you're like, yeah, I probably put a little bit too much oil. The other thing is, like, you want to pick a pan that is not too small for what you're doing. So that's another little helper. Like we've loaded all that heat into it. And we don't, if you crowd the pan too much, you end up not having air be able to flow and other things. So I'm going to put that thing on, which doesn't really work, but it's going to make us feel better about, stuff. All right, so I kind of let this go a little bit. There were a couple pieces of butter that were still sort of there.
Yeah. Looking good.
So we'll throw a little bit more in, and I'm going to stick it back just, the burner's off, but there's still all that heat that was kind of... Alexa, turn off the timer. Alrighty. The bok choy, like this bok choy, you could just about eat this raw. So... All right, so we're doing this live, and so if it turns out that you put too much oil, don't be timid about that, because sometimes that happens. Like a really easy way to address it, and it helps if you're not streaming live video, to all your friends and neighbors and family, is you can just kind of get a little bit of a paper towel in the pan. I mean, it's a clean paper towel, not a gross one. And really just like sop a little bit of that up. And maybe we put it in the sink and not in the plastic trash bag. But yeah, it's not a terrible way to deal with it. So, yeah, why don't we come take a look and see how this mess is going over here.
So Robin says socially distanced the scallops.
Exactly. Yeah, see? They're doing pretty good. A couple of these I'm not so sure about, but...
getting a little stuck.
Yeah, so if you do get a nice temperature and you don't put them, kind of incorrectly, after a little bit, they'll start to be able to be where you can pick them up without tearing them all to bits. So these, right now, what's burning is you can see like the sides of the pan, because this burner actually goes up the sides of the pan. Whatever. That's why we have a little bit of steel wool in the kitchen, is to clear that off. So. But don't worry, it's not the scallops that are burning. And in fact, if we try to flip them now, they're not ready yet. So we're going to let it go another little bit. Yeah. So we are going to say that our bok choy are probably nice and done. Yeah, they're just starting to look a little bit. You know what? I'm going to keep the heat up just a little bit more on the bok choy. Usually,
there it goes.
There we are. So to everybody, what do you want to?
Just hold it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep. So So we had said earlier that we were pretty much guaranteeing that the smoke alarm was going to go off. So that's what that is. This is really an homage, to Jennifer, for whom that happened during her doing of this yesterday. So, Ballard Kitchens, the struggle is real. That's just how that goes. But you can see, that we're getting some. If you see streaks of clear liquid that kind of start to show up and then keep showing up, then you definitely want to have less heat on it because it means it's starting to break a little bit. But this is pretty good. We may have to actually drive a little bit more heat into that in a second. But now we're getting to the part where the choice of there we are.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to see how these guys are. Yeah.
What's everybody having for dinner tonight? While he's taking a little in between here.
Yeah. So you can come see if you want. Actually, So for the most, there's a couple that a couple of the parts are stuck, but really, for the most part, they're not behaving too poorly. So this is a really nice, kind of golden crust on this. I mean, part of that was because we made sure we patted it dry. Part of it is nice hot pan, and careless disregard for fire safety. But this just means we got a really good a lot of good flavor. I'm gonna knock the heat down a scoosh because we don't. This will be done in a couple minutes. I'm gonna not balance that because it doesn't actually work.
I'll just show y'all. There's the fire extinguisher down there.
Yeah. Yes.
Very important. Very important. Okay.
All about the safety.
You want to show us the sauce?
Yeah. So I don't do this mostly on heat, but it's the things are taking a little while, the pieces of butter to melt. So I'm just gonna kick the heat on for 10-15 seconds, and we'll throw a couple more cubes of butter in. You can see how nicely it's. This is not the consistency of melted butter, right? And and that's because of that emulsification. Like I said, egg yolks have a ton of lecithin, relatively in them, which is why you use egg yolks for things like hollandaise. But the little tiny bit of lecithin that's in butter will actually cause, the water that's in the butter along with the fat in the butter. Butter is usually about 80% or so fat, and then 15-ish water and 5% protein and blanc. So those proportions are actually, okay to use for, to cause an emulsification. So this is usually the point where we're like, oh, did we forget to make any of the dishes? But no, for those of you who, joined after we talked about it, there's, when we first started this, or before we started, because they take a while to do, we took some purple sweet potatoes that you can get at Costco in these little bags here, or giant bags because there's a bunch in them. We cut them in half horizontally. We nuked coconut oil in a plate, to just make it liquid. Put the cut side on the plate, put them onto a thing, threw salt and cracked black pepper, and then into the oven. So those are probably done. That's fine. That's fine. These are chilling out. Yeah, let's take a look. So this is. Oh yeah. So yeah, that when a knife just sort of so it's got a nice little crust, and then it's going to be all warm and goopy on the inside here. So that is good.
Regular sweet potatoes would work with that coconut oil stuff as well.
Yes, yeah. Coconut oil is really neat, and it's a good thing. You think about coconut and savory flavors because they're really tasty, and it doesn't have to be, whatever. There's a lot of different Asian cuisines or Caribbean cuisines that have that in their flavor set, but there's a whole lot, of other stuff that just is really neat when you throw a little bit of coconut and citrus is really good together. So that's why we kind of went with the citrus and the beurre blanc and everything. So these guys, we're gonna say, let's take a look at the. So one thing about fish is like like once it kind of starts to look like it's coming apart here, that's often like done in terms of fish. Well, in terms of fish, it's usually overdone. But like scallops are it's a respectable thing to leave scallops a little bit to cook them a little bit harder because they're a shellfish and shellfish filter stuff. So no one's going to judge you for not wanting to eat scallops rare. So those are doing pretty well. I'm probably going to kick the heat up upwards just a little bit for the very end. And yeah, so we've got, and then these guys, I think
Should we take a look
these guys
at
are
those?
happy too. So we'll show everybody in a sec. I just want to like make sure that, yeah, there you go. So I mean, yeah, you could eat those uncooked, and whatever. We usually don't like beat vegetables up too hard. Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, no, are you taking it off?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So they're still nice and bright green, and
looking good.
And they're. We don't put if you cook greens, anything that's green usually, if you cook it with an acid, you end up it makes the green all kind of grayish and bleh. So a lot of times if we're doing veggies, we'll do something really not complicated, like steam, or even, like I said, in the nuker for 3 minutes, or 2 minutes does broccoli, like to the extent that you can go, saute them or do something or broil them to finish them off. So don't feel shame about nuking stuff. It's not terrible. Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna right. So yeah, often we will take that and do it pretty. We'll do a pretty basic cook without a ton of flavors or other elements, to just kind of get it where we want it to be, and then you can toss it with sauce or do whatever else. All right, so the last couple 30 cubes of our butter are melting a little bit here. We're pretty close. You can see, there's still like a little, piece of 1 cube left. So, but and again, it's nice and clear. There's a thing that they talk about with sauces where the consistency, the French call it nappe, or nappe or something. I don't know. It's I've got the way the chef pronounced it for who was from the Midwest French versus the actual French people French. This was our lemon juice spoon. So the people will also debate you about even this being a wooden spoon. But if you get a spoon and coat it in the back of the sauce and then run your finger through it, and then lick your finger to taste it. So you'll see the sauce holds for a little bit, and then will sometimes start to run.
Why don't you do that again, because I was still getting close enough to see what you were doing.
Okay. Yeah, so the fact that it holds, and if there were a whole bunch on the spoon, it would then start to kind of drip over. That's kind of the right consistency generally for a sauce. There's different sauces and different things and whatever else, but if you're doing certainly in the classical French sauce world, that's about where you want the consistency of it. All right.
So Clay wants to know if Riley's going to be the judge.
Yes. Well, he's not with us this weekend, but he is. It's funny because he kind of went from always being the judge to often being a participant, and and so it's actually amazing if we panned around the kitchen. Well, it wouldn't take very long because our kitchen's tiny, like every other kitchen in Ballard. It's amazing that the three of us can manage to often cook without wanting to strangle one another or anything, here in the kitchen.
We'll put him in our next video. He and Chris do quite the comedy routine when they cook together. I'm kind of the straight man, so you're getting me tonight, but Sebastian's he's
Yes.
pretty funny.
Yeah, Heather. Yeah, she often calls it the Chris and Wiley show. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go through. We'll loosen a little bit of this. The other thing about sometimes if you actually go to a fish market to get your scallops, you can ask them. Are these? They'll sometimes call them dry or wet, or they'll say they're diver scallops if they versus something that got processed. But because these have the solution in it, like it kind of comes out in the pan. You can see like all these little like rings around the stuff. So it did make them stick a little bit, but you know, not terribly so. Yeah. So we've got our sauce, and yeah, I think we're
Ready to plate up?
just about good to go. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, we could take some questions if anybody has any questions. I don't know, that's kind of silly maybe, but I thought we'd offer. We have 20 people watching, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah. Yes, that's pretty cool actually. All right. Well, then let me get to plates and we'll do the plate stuff, and if people want to ask questions and all that, we can do that.
Todd Blanchard says, digging that jazz. And Joe wants to know the wine pairing. I think you missed that, Joe. It's Kim Crawford's what? Sauvignon Blanc?
Yeah. It's a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand.
It's like $13 at Costco.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's like $2 Chuck, and this is like $11 Crawford or whatever.
We're not fancy.
Yeah, it's not a super fancy thing.
You know, with our beurre blanc sauce and everything. Yeah. All right, let's see. I'm sorry I'm making everybody dizzy here.
Oh, that's all good. All right, we're gonna, because this is nice and done, we're gonna just stick it over here.
So Ronald Wetzel, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong says no pressure or anything. Definitely need your own show.
Alrighty. So let's see what we got here.
Joe says, white wine, that's why I missed it.
Yeah.
Ellie says, great choice of wine.
Good stuff.
She's had it before and she likes it.
Alright then. Yes. Alright, so we'll get a little bit of the bok choy. And I always really sucked at plating things, you know, when I did like culinary class stuff. So, I should be like angling something dramatically on something else and such, but we're not doing that.
Hey, thanks, Jessica. Appreciate the shout out to the camera person.
Yes.
It's actually a little harder than it looks. We had to like rig up a weird little tripod thing here so that I could like... Yeah.
Well, and without Heather doing the camera work, I'd just be some weird guy talking to himself in the kitchen, which, is often the case.
I was going to say, that wouldn't be different, but...
That's not exactly...
So we have Michael Tebe. Is that how you say his name?
Yes, another good...
What's up from Nola Lonnie's?
Yeah. How's it going, Michael? Alrighty, and... Okay, so...
Jennifer says more filters. Okay, I'll see if I can find one filter for Jennifer.
All right.
I don't even know how to do this. How does this work? Where'd the steak come from? It's not steak, Yun. It's a purple potato, like a sweet potato. Yeah. I think they're Japanese, maybe, is where they originally come from. But we got them at Costco, so yeah. But you're right, they do kind of look like steak in the...
So one of the things to note about this, the beurre blanc, it's like usually you kind of do that last, and you do it like a la minute, and you serve it, and and then you eat stuff, and then you shut up at some point talking to all the people on Facebook. So this actually did break a little bit. That's why like that little trick with the cream stabilization stuff works. Like you saw it earlier, it was nice and thick and awesome, and that would be the time to like artfully gloop it all over the food artfully. Right now, because it kind of broke a little, it was starting to break. I don't think it fully has, because it's not totally separated, but you can definitely see it's runnier, and you can't see artful gloops on the stuff. So, I would be fired by, the crazy European chef yelling at me if I was doing this in a restaurant. But, I'm not, so proof. Yeah. And instead it's just us, and so we get to eat it. So you can go back and see there's like numerous tips and things and whatevers
and we'll write the recipe down, or
we'll
some version of it at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can do that fairly quick. That's yep.
Rick Sudbury just joined, so he kind of. So Rick, this is what we made.
Yeah. Right.
One more time, it's scallops with, what is it? Go ahead.
We seared some scallops. We made a beurre blanc, and just some lightly steamed baby bok choy and some purple sweet potatoes, and And yeah, now we're gonna eat. So sorry that actually we went really long. So thanks to everybody who's actually stuck around since we started the shenanigans like 45 minutes ago.
Everybody says looks great, but it tastes incredible. Lots of recipes, please. So
yes,
thanks everybody.
Yeah.
It was really nice to hear from you all.
Yeah, once society's done falling apart and stuff, we're happy to get back together again with people and do this with with friends and stuff or visitors from out of town.
And next time we'll get Sebastian in so that he can help out. He's actually a pretty accomplished chef in his own right these days. So
exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I'm a terrible cameraman, so you'll get to experience all the different skills that we have or don't.
Right on.
So, all right. Thanks everybody.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Thank y'all.